India stands as one of the world's most remarkable civilizations, a land where ancient wisdom meets modern innovation. For over 5,000 years, this subcontinent has been a crossroads of cultures, religions, and ideas that have shaped human history. From the sophisticated urban planning of the Indus Valley civilization to its emergence as a modern technological powerhouse, India's story is one of continuous transformation and enduring influence. India's strategic position connected ancient civilizations through vast trade networks. These routes carried not just goods, but ideas, technologies, and cultural exchanges that enriched the entire known world. This diversity of cultures, languages, and traditions has been India's greatest strength. From the snow-capped Himalayas to tropical coastlines, from ancient temples to bustling modern cities, India embodies the concept of unity in diversity. Today, India stands as the world's largest democracy and a rising global power. Its influence extends from technology and space exploration to philosophy and sustainable development, continuing a legacy of innovation that spans millennia. Our journey will take us through the rise and fall of great empires, the birth of world religions, the struggle for independence, and the emergence of modern India. We will explore how this ancient land continues to shape our world today. From the sophisticated cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro to the digital corridors of Bangalore and Hyderabad, India's story is one of remarkable continuity and constant change. Let us begin this timeless journey together. The Indus Valley Civilization represents one of humanity's earliest and most sophisticated urban societies. Flourishing between 3300 and 1300 BCE, this remarkable civilization developed advanced cities with unprecedented urban planning and extensive trade networks that connected distant regions. Archaeological excavations across the Indian subcontinent have revealed the remains of highly organized cities. These aerial views show the systematic layout of ancient urban centers, with carefully planned streets and sophisticated building structures that demonstrate remarkable engineering capabilities. The city of Dholavira exemplifies the advanced urban planning of the Indus Valley civilization. This detailed layout shows a fortified citadel, separate residential areas, and an intricate system of reservoirs and channels. The city was divided into distinct zones, including a castle, middle town, lower town, and even public entertainment areas with stadia. The engineering achievements of the Indus Valley civilization were extraordinary for their time. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro, with its precise construction and waterproofing, served as a public facility. Meanwhile, sophisticated drainage systems with covered sewers and manholes provided sanitation that would not be seen again for millennia. The Indus Valley civilization established vast trade networks that connected regions across Asia and beyond. Standardized seals with intricate symbols facilitated commerce, while precise weights and measures ensured fair trade. These artifacts demonstrate a sophisticated economic system that supported long-distance commerce across the ancient world. Recent archaeological discoveries continue to reveal the remarkable achievements of the Indus Valley civilization. Their legacy includes the world's first planned cities, revolutionary sanitation systems, standardized commerce, and social organization that laid foundations for future civilizations. This ancient society demonstrates humanity's early capacity for sophisticated urban living and international trade. The Vedic period, spanning from 1500 to 500 BCE, marks a foundational era in Indian history. This thousand-year period witnessed the composition of the earliest Hindu texts and the establishment of religious and philosophical traditions that continue to shape Indian society today. The Vedic period began with the migration of Indo-European speaking peoples into the Indian subcontinent around 1500 BCE. These migrations brought new languages, cultural practices, and religious concepts that would profoundly influence the development of Indian civilization. The Rig Veda, composed between 1500 and 1200 BCE, stands as the oldest surviving text of Hinduism. This collection of 1,028 hymns, written in Vedic Sanskrit, contains prayers, praises, and philosophical reflections addressed to various deities. One of its most famous verses declares that truth is one, though the wise call it by many names. Vedic religion centered on the worship of natural forces personified as deities. Surya represented the sun, Indra controlled thunder and war, Agni was the god of fire, Vayu governed the wind, and Varuna ruled over water and cosmic order. These deities were invoked through elaborate rituals and hymns. Fire sacrifices, known as yajna, formed the heart of Vedic religious practice. These elaborate ceremonies involved offerings to the sacred fire, which was believed to carry prayers and offerings to the gods. Vedic priests, called Brahmins, performed these rituals to maintain cosmic order and ensure the prosperity of the community. The Vedic period established fundamental philosophical concepts that became central to Hinduism. Dharma represented righteous duty and cosmic law, karma described the principle of action and consequence, moksha was the ultimate goal of liberation, and Atman referred to the individual soul. These concepts form the foundation of Hindu thought. Vedic literature presented a sophisticated cosmological worldview, describing a universe with multiple realms and levels of existence. This complex understanding of reality, with its emphasis on cosmic cycles and divine order, provided the foundation for later Hindu cosmological concepts and influenced Indian philosophical thought for millennia. The Vedic period's influence on Indian civilization cannot be overstated. It established Sanskrit as the sacred language of Hinduism, created the philosophical foundations that continue to guide Hindu thought, developed social structures that shaped Indian society, and influenced art, literature, and culture throughout the subcontinent. The Vedic legacy remains a living tradition in modern India. Around 600 BCE, the political landscape of northern India underwent a dramatic transformation. The age of small tribal settlements gave way to the era of the Mahajanapadas, 16 great kingdoms and republics that would shape the future of Indian civilization. This map reveals the 16 Mahajanapadas that dominated the Indian subcontinent. These were not mere tribal territories, but sophisticated political entities with defined boundaries, organized armies, and complex administrative systems. Among these 16 kingdoms, several emerged as particularly powerful. Magadha in the east would eventually dominate all others. Kosala was renowned for its wealth and culture. Kuru represented the heartland of Vedic civilization, while Gandhara controlled crucial trade routes to Central Asia. The Mahajanapadas represented a crucial evolutionary step in Indian political development. Small tribal communities gradually consolidated into larger kingdoms with centralized authority, professional armies, and sophisticated taxation systems. Magadha emerged as the most powerful of all Mahajanapadas due to several strategic advantages. Its location in the iron-rich regions provided superior weapons. The fertile Gangetic plains ensured agricultural prosperity, while river networks facilitated trade and communication. The Mahajanapadas established sophisticated political and social hierarchies. The caste system became more rigid, defining social roles and political participation. Kings developed professional bureaucracies, maintained standing armies, and created systematic taxation to fund their growing states. This detailed map shows how the Mahajanapadas were strategically positioned across river valleys and trade routes. Their interactions through warfare, diplomacy, and commerce created a complex web of relationships that would influence Indian politics for centuries to come. Key rulers like Bimbisara of Magadha and Prasenjit of Kosala exemplified the new style of kingship. They expanded territories through strategic marriages, promoted trade, and patronized learning. Their reigns marked the transition from tribal chiefs to sophisticated monarchs. The Mahajanapadas established political foundations that would endure for millennia. They created centralized authority, professional administration, and systematic governance. Most importantly, they demonstrated that diverse populations could be united under effective political structures, paving the way for the great empires that would follow. Ancient India witnessed the birth of three profound religious and philosophical traditions that would shape not only the subcontinent, but influence spiritual thought across the world. Hinduism and Jainism emerged during this transformative period, each offering unique paths to understanding existence, morality, and liberation. Hinduism, the world's oldest major religion, evolved from the Vedic traditions established during the Vedic period. Unlike other religions, Hinduism has no single founder or central authority, instead developing as a complex tapestry of beliefs, practices, and philosophical schools over thousands of years. Central to Hindu philosophy is the concept of dharma, righteous duty and moral law that governs individual conduct and cosmic order. Dharma encompasses religious obligations, moral principles, and the natural law that maintains harmony in the universe. Karma, the law of cause and effect, teaches that every action has consequences that shape one's present and future existence. This principle is intimately connected to samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that souls undergo until they achieve liberation or moksha. Buddhism emerged in the 6th century BCE when Prince Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha or Enlightened One, achieved spiritual awakening under the Bodhi tree. His teachings focused on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path as the way to end suffering and achieve nirvana. Jainism, founded by Mahavira in the 6th century BCE, emphasizes ahimsa or nonviolence as the highest virtue. Jains believe in the liberation of the soul through right conduct, right knowledge, and right faith, with strict adherence to nonviolence toward all living beings. These three religions profoundly shaped Indian civilization, establishing philosophical frameworks that continue to influence ethics, governance, and social structures. They introduced concepts of moral responsibility, spiritual liberation, and the interconnectedness of all life that became fundamental to Indian thought and culture. Around 321 BCE, a young warrior named Chandragupta Maurya would establish India's first great empire, uniting the subcontinent under a single rule for the first time in history. Chandragupta Maurya, born around 340 BCE, rose from humble origins to become one of history's greatest conquerors. With the guidance of his mentor Chanakya, also known as Kautilya, he overthrew the powerful Nanda dynasty and established the Mauryan Empire in 321 BCE. The Mauryan Empire became the largest empire in Indian history, stretching from Afghanistan in the northwest to Bengal in the east, and from Kashmir in the north to Karnataka in the south. This vast territory covered over 5 million square kilometers and ruled approximately 50 million people. Chandragupta established a sophisticated administrative system with Pataliputra as the capital. The empire was divided into 4 provinces, each governed by appointed officials called Rajukas. This centralized system included an efficient taxation network and maintained a massive standing army of 600,000 soldiers. The capital city of Pataliputra became one of the world's largest cities, showcasing the empire's wealth and power. Chandragupta implemented revolutionary economic policies, including state control of key industries, extensive trade networks, and a standardized currency system. His military achievements included defeating the Greek general Seleucus, securing the empire's northwestern frontiers. Chandragupta Maurya's empire established the template for Indian imperial governance. His innovations in administration, military organization, and economic policy created a unified Indian state that promoted trade, cultural exchange, and religious tolerance. The Mauryan Empire became the foundation upon which future Indian empires would build, marking the beginning of India's imperial age. Ashoka Maurya, who reigned from 268 to 232 BCE, stands as one of history's most remarkable rulers. The third emperor of the Mauryan dynasty and grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka would transform from a ruthless conqueror into a compassionate leader who championed Buddhism and social justice across his vast empire. The Kalinga War, fought around 261 BCE in what is now the state of Odisha, marked the bloodiest campaign of Ashoka's military career. This devastating conflict resulted in over 100,000 soldiers killed and 150,000 people deported. The sheer scale of destruction and human suffering would profoundly impact the emperor's worldview. The aftermath of the Kalinga War triggered a profound spiritual transformation in Ashoka. Witnessing the immense suffering he had caused, the emperor experienced deep remorse and guilt. This led him to embrace Buddhism and its core principle of ahimsa, or nonviolence. Ashoka adopted the path of Dharma, meaning righteousness and moral duty, renouncing further military conquests in favor of moral governance. Ashoka's transformation was documented through his famous edicts, carved on rocks and pillars throughout his empire. These inscriptions, written in local languages including Prakrit and Greek, conveyed his moral teachings to his subjects. The edicts promoted respect for all religions, protection of animals and the environment, care for the poor and elderly, and justice for all citizens regardless of their social status. The lion capital at Sarnath stands as Ashoka's most enduring symbol. This magnificent sculpture features 4 lions facing the cardinal directions, representing Ashoka's rule extending to all corners of his empire. The Dharma Chakra, or Wheel of Law, crowns the capital, while the base depicts 4 animals: elephant, horse, bull, and lion. This masterpiece became India's national emblem in 1950, with the motto Satyameva Jayate, meaning truth alone triumphs. Ashoka implemented revolutionary social reforms that were centuries ahead of their time. He established hospitals for both humans and animals, built roads and rest houses for travelers, and planted medicinal herbs and trees throughout his empire. His administration created a just legal system and appointed special ministers called Dhamma Mahamatras to ensure moral governance and religious tolerance. Ashoka's legacy extends far beyond his own era, profoundly influencing Indian civilization and world history. He was the first ruler to actively promote religious tolerance and establish principles of a welfare state. His efforts spread Buddhism across Asia, from Sri Lanka to Central Asia. Ashoka created a model of ethical governance that influenced modern India's constitution, and his symbol of the lion capital continues to represent the nation's commitment to truth, peace, and nonviolence. The Gupta Empire, spanning from 320 to 550 CE, represents the golden age of ancient India. This remarkable period witnessed unprecedented advances in science, mathematics, and culture that would influence the world for centuries to come. At its height, the Gupta Empire controlled much of the Indian subcontinent. From their capital at Pataliputra, the Gupta rulers established a stable and prosperous kingdom that became a center of learning and innovation. Gupta mathematicians made 2 revolutionary discoveries that transformed mathematics forever. First, they developed the concept of zero as both a placeholder and a number in its own right. Second, they created the decimal place value system that we still use today. The Gupta numeral system shows remarkable similarity to our modern numbers. These ancient symbols, developed in the 4th century CE, evolved into the Arabic numerals we use today, spreading from India through the Islamic world to Europe. The Bakshali manuscript represents one of the oldest surviving mathematical texts from India. This ancient document contains advanced mathematical concepts and demonstrates the sophisticated level of mathematical thinking during the Gupta period. Beyond mathematics, the Gupta period saw remarkable advances across multiple fields. Astronomers calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy. Physicians developed advanced surgical techniques. Metallurgists created the famous iron pillar of Delhi, which remains rust-free after 1,600 years. Literature flourished with classical Sanskrit works that remain influential today. The Gupta Empire's contributions to mathematics and science established India as a global center of learning. Their innovations in numerical systems, astronomical calculations, and scientific methods spread throughout the ancient world, laying foundations for modern mathematics and science that continue to benefit humanity today. The Gupta period marked the pinnacle of classical Indian culture, producing literary masterpieces and philosophical works that would influence Indian thought for centuries to come. Kalidasa, often called the Shakespeare of Sanskrit literature, created timeless works during the Gupta period. His play Shakuntala tells the story of love between King Dushyanta and the forest maiden Shakuntala, while Meghaduta poetically describes a cloud carrying messages of love. The Gupta period saw the systematic preservation of knowledge through carefully crafted manuscripts and stone inscriptions. These texts preserved not only literature but also philosophical treatises, mathematical discoveries, and astronomical observations that formed the foundation of classical Indian learning. The Gupta period witnessed remarkable philosophical developments across multiple traditions. Buddhist scholars refined the Madhyamaka and Yogacara schools, exploring the nature of consciousness and reality. Meanwhile, Hindu philosophers systematized Advaita Vedanta, developing sophisticated theories about the ultimate nature of existence and the relationship between individual consciousness and universal reality. Beyond Kalidasa, the Gupta period produced other literary treasures. Vishnu Sharma's Panchatantra used animal fables to teach moral lessons, becoming one of the most translated books in world literature. Bhartrhari's philosophical poetry explored themes of love, ethics, and renunciation, creating works that resonated across centuries. These literary and philosophical achievements of the Gupta period established enduring cultural foundations. Their works were translated into numerous languages, influenced literature across Asia and beyond, and created intellectual frameworks that continue to shape Indian thought today. The cultural flourishing of the Gupta period represents one of humanity's great intellectual achievements, creating a golden age of literature and philosophy whose influence extends far beyond the borders of ancient India. The arrival of Islam in India marked a transformative period in the subcontinent's history. Beginning with early raids in the 10th century, Islamic influence gradually established itself, culminating in the formation of the Delhi Sultanate in 1206. The Delhi Sultanate was established by Qutb-ud-Din Aibak in 1206, following the conquests of Muhammad of Ghor. This marked the beginning of sustained Islamic rule in northern India, with Delhi as the political center. The Delhi Sultanate was ruled by 5 successive dynasties: the Mamluks, Khaljis, Tughlaq, Sayyids, and Lotus. Each dynasty brought its own administrative style and cultural contributions, creating a unique Indo-Islamic civilization. The interaction between Islamic and Indian traditions created a rich cultural synthesis. Islamic administrative practices merged with local customs, while Persian became the court language alongside Sanskrit and regional languages. The Delhi Sultanate's most enduring legacy lies in its architectural achievements. The Qutub Minar, built by Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, represents the first major Indo-Islamic architectural monument, combining Islamic design principles with Indian craftsmanship. The Sultanate also introduced new architectural elements, including pointed arches, domes, and minarets. Fortified cities and palaces demonstrated both Islamic architectural principles and adaptation to Indian climate and materials. The administrative structure of the Delhi Sultanate established new systems of governance that would influence Indian politics for centuries. The Sultanate created a centralized administration while maintaining local autonomy in many regions. The Delhi Sultanate's 3-century rule fundamentally transformed the Indian subcontinent. It established Islam as a major religious and cultural force, created new forms of art and architecture, and laid the groundwork for future Islamic empires, including the Mughals who would succeed them. The Mughal Empire emerged as one of the most powerful and culturally rich dynasties in Indian history. Founded in 1526, it would grow to dominate much of the Indian subcontinent for over 2 centuries. Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, a descendant of both Timur and Genghis Khan, founded the Mughal Empire in 1526. His victory at the First Battle of Panipat against Ibrahim Lodi marked the beginning of Mughal dominance in India. Akbar the Great transformed the Mughal Empire from a military conquest into a sophisticated administrative state. His policies of religious tolerance and innovative governance systems created a stable foundation for Mughal rule. Shah Jahan's reign marked the golden age of Mughal architecture and culture. His architectural masterpieces, including the Taj Mahal, represent the pinnacle of Indo-Islamic architectural synthesis. Under these 3 great emperors, the Mughal Empire became a beacon of cultural synthesis, administrative innovation, and architectural magnificence. Their legacy shaped Indian civilization for centuries to come. From Babur's conquest to Akbar's administration and Shah Jahan's architectural wonders, these 3 rulers established the Mughal Empire as one of history's greatest civilizations. The Mughal Empire created one of history's most remarkable cultural syntheses, blending Hindu, Persian, and Islamic traditions into a unique civilization that transformed art, architecture, literature, and music across the Indian subcontinent. Mughal architecture represents the perfect fusion of three traditions. Islamic domes and arches provided structural elegance, Persian garden layouts created harmonious spaces, while Hindu decorative motifs added intricate beauty to every surface. Mughal court paintings combined Persian miniature techniques with Hindu mythological themes and Islamic geometric patterns. Artists from different traditions worked together, creating a distinctive style that captured both spiritual and earthly beauty. The musical synthesis created Hindustani classical music, blending Persian melodic structures with Hindu ragas and Islamic devotional forms. Instruments like the sitar and tabla became symbols of this cultural fusion, creating new forms of artistic expression. Literary synthesis flourished as Persian poetry merged with Sanskrit traditions and Arabic scholarship. The development of Urdu as a court language exemplified this fusion, creating a rich literary heritage that drew from multiple cultural sources. This cultural synthesis created a lasting legacy that continues to influence modern India. It established architectural principles still used today, developed musical forms that remain central to Indian classical music, and fostered an atmosphere of religious tolerance and cultural exchange that became fundamental to Indian civilization. The Mughal cultural synthesis demonstrated that different traditions could not only coexist but create something entirely new and beautiful, establishing the principle of unity in diversity that remains central to Indian identity today. The Mughal Empire reached its architectural zenith during the 16th and 17th centuries, creating monuments that would become eternal symbols of India's rich cultural heritage. These architectural marvels represent not just artistic achievement, but also the synthesis of diverse cultural traditions and the prosperity brought by expanding trade networks. The Mughal Empire's expansion from 1530 to 1707 created a vast network of trade routes and cultural exchange. This prosperity funded magnificent architectural projects that blended Persian, Islamic, and Indian traditions into a unique Indo-Islamic style. The Taj Mahal, built between 1632 and 1653 by Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal, represents the pinnacle of Mughal architectural achievement. This view from the Agra fort shows the Taj Mahal in the distance, demonstrating how Mughal monuments were strategically positioned to create visual harmony across the landscape. Mughal architecture represents a remarkable synthesis of Persian techniques, Indian materials, and Islamic geometric principles. The intricate pietra dura inlay work, as seen in this marble table, demonstrates the level of craftsmanship achieved by Mughal artisans. These techniques were perfected by skilled craftsmen from across the empire, creating a unique artistic language that combined diverse cultural traditions. The wealth generated by expanding trade networks during the Mughal period directly funded these architectural marvels. The empire's strategic position connected the Silk Road to maritime trade routes, bringing unprecedented prosperity. This Red Fort complex in Delhi exemplifies how trade wealth was transformed into lasting monuments that showcase the empire's power and cultural sophistication. The architectural legacy of the Mughal Empire extends far beyond individual monuments. These structures established design principles and construction techniques that continue to influence Indian architecture today. The perfect balance of form and function, the integration of diverse cultural elements, and the use of local materials and craftsmanship created a uniquely Indian architectural language that remains relevant centuries later. By the 17th century, European powers were racing to establish trade routes to the lucrative markets of Asia. India, with its vast wealth in spices, textiles, and precious goods, became the ultimate prize for European merchants seeking fortune in the East. European traders followed established maritime routes across the Indian Ocean, connecting ports from Lisbon to Macau. The Portuguese were first, followed by the Dutch, French, and finally the British, each seeking to control these profitable trade networks. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I granted a royal charter to the East India Company, giving it exclusive rights to trade with Asia. This joint stock company began with modest capital, but would eventually become one of the most powerful commercial entities in history. The company established a network of trading posts along India's coastline. Starting with Surat in 1608, they built fortified factories in Madras, acquired Bombay from the Portuguese, and founded Calcutta. These coastal enclaves became the foundation of British power in India. The company employed ruthless economic tactics to maximize profits. They manipulated local markets, undercut Indian merchants, and systematically extracted wealth from India to Britain. This political cartoon from the era satirizes their financial dealings and growing power. Beyond trade, the company mastered political manipulation. They exploited rivalries between Indian rulers, offered military support to gain influence, and gradually acquired territory. This 1785 map shows the extent of British dominions by the end of Warren Hastings' governorship. What began as a modest trading company had transformed into a territorial power controlling vast regions of India. Through a combination of economic exploitation and political manipulation, the East India Company laid the foundation for British colonial rule that would dominate the subcontinent for the next 2 centuries. By the early 20th century, the Indian independence movement had evolved into a powerful force that would challenge the British Empire through organized resistance, visionary leadership, and revolutionary methods of nonviolent protest. The Indian National Congress, founded in 1885, became the primary vehicle for India's struggle for independence. Initially a moderate organization seeking reforms within the British system, it would transform into a mass movement demanding complete independence. Mahatma Gandhi emerged as the most influential leader of the independence movement. His philosophy of satyagraha, or truth force, introduced the world to the power of nonviolent resistance as a tool for political and social change. The civil disobedience movement of 1930 marked a turning point in the independence struggle. Gandhi's Salt March to Dandi became a symbol of resistance, inspiring millions of Indians to join the fight for freedom through peaceful protest. Jawaharlal Nehru, Gandhi's chosen successor, brought intellectual rigor and modern vision to the independence movement. As the first Prime Minister of independent India, Nehru would shape the nation's democratic foundations and international relations. The evolution of the Indian national flag reflected the growing unity and determination of the independence movement. From the early designs of 1906 to the final tricolor adopted in 1947, each flag represented the aspirations of a nation seeking freedom. The independence movement was not just about leaders, but about millions of ordinary Indians who participated in marches, boycotts, and protests. Their collective sacrifice and determination ultimately forced the British to recognize that their rule in India was no longer sustainable. The independence movement transformed India from a collection of British provinces and princely states into a unified nation. Through the leadership of Gandhi, Nehru, and countless others, India achieved freedom not through violence, but through the moral force of truth and nonviolent resistance. British colonial policies fundamentally transformed India's economy, society, and political landscape over nearly 2 centuries of rule. These changes created lasting impacts that shaped modern India. The British East India Company initially arrived as traders, but gradually established economic dominance that systematically drained India's wealth to Britain. The economic drain was devastating. India's share of world GDP fell from 24% in 1700 to just 4% by 1950. The British extracted 30 to 40 million pounds annually by 1900. The British implemented new land revenue systems that disrupted traditional agriculture. The zamindari system created a new landlord class, while the rayatwari system directly taxed farmers, often leading to debt and displacement. British trade policies created a colonial economy where India exported raw materials and imported expensive finished goods. This destroyed local industries, with textile production falling by 90%. British rule brought significant social changes, particularly in education and social reform movements, though often serving colonial interests rather than Indian development. Macaulay's education policy in 1835 introduced English education to create a class of Indians who could serve British administration. However, literacy remained below 10% and traditional knowledge systems declined. Social reforms included the abolition of sati and legalization of widow remarriage. Indian reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Dayananda Saraswati led movements to modernize Hindu society while preserving its essence. British rule completely restructured India's political system, introducing new administrative and legal frameworks, while gradually awakening Indian political consciousness. The British created a centralized bureaucracy and introduced English legal systems. This political restructuring eventually led to the formation of the Indian National Congress in 1885 and growing demands for self-governance. British policies created a complex legacy. While they modernized administration and education, they also systematically exploited India's economy and resources. These policies ultimately awakened Indian political consciousness, setting the stage for the independence movement. The impact of British policies fundamentally transformed India, creating both the conditions for modern development and the motivation for independence. These changes shaped the India that would emerge as a free nation in 1947. The partition of India and Pakistan in 1947 stands as one of the most traumatic events in modern history. This division created two separate nations, but came at an enormous human cost that continues to shape South Asian geopolitics today. The partition resulted from deep-rooted causes that had been building for decades. The two-nation theory, championed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, argued that Hindus and Muslims were distinct nations requiring separate homelands. Sir Cyril Radcliffe drew the boundary lines in just 5 weeks, creating the Radcliffe Line. This hastily drawn border divided the provinces of Punjab and Bengal, separating communities that had lived together for centuries. The human cost was staggering. Between 14 and 18 million people were forced to leave their homes in the largest migration in human history. Overcrowded trains like this one carried desperate refugees across the new borders. Massive refugee camps were hastily established to house the displaced millions. Families carried their entire lives in ox carts and bundles, walking hundreds of miles to reach safety in their new homelands. The consequences of partition continue to shape South Asia today. Prime Minister Nehru addressed a traumatized nation, but the political tensions, unresolved Kashmir dispute, and social wounds created by partition persist 75 years later. The partition of India and Pakistan remains a defining moment in South Asian history. While it created two independent nations, the human cost and ongoing geopolitical tensions serve as a reminder of the complex legacy of colonial rule and communal division. After gaining independence in 1947, India faced the monumental task of building a modern nation from the ground up. The new country inherited a fragmented economy, widespread poverty, and deep social divisions that required comprehensive solutions. India's economy in 1947 was primarily agricultural, with limited industrial development. 85% of the population lived in rural areas, literacy was only 12%, and the GDP per capita was among the lowest in the world. Prime Minister Nehru adopted a socialist approach to economic development, emphasizing state control over key industries. His vision included a mixed economy with both public and private sectors, focusing on heavy industries and implementing land redistribution policies. The 5-year plans, introduced in 1951, became the cornerstone of India's economic development strategy. These comprehensive plans determined government expenditure and priorities across agriculture, industries, education, and infrastructure development. India has made remarkable progress in poverty reduction over the decades. From 1984 to 2020, rural poverty declined from 65% to 15%, urban poverty from 45% to 8%, and overall poverty from 60% to 12%, demonstrating the effectiveness of targeted development programs. Despite overall progress, India continues to face significant regional disparities in development. Northern states generally show higher development indicators, while central and eastern regions face greater challenges in infrastructure, education, and economic opportunities. Modern India has embraced corporate social responsibility as a key tool for addressing development challenges. Companies now contribute to healthcare, rural development, education, environmental protection, and community development, creating a partnership between private sector and social progress. India's nation building journey represents both remarkable achievements and ongoing challenges. From Nehru's socialist planning to modern market reforms, the country continues to evolve its approach toward inclusive and sustainable development for all its citizens. Following independence in 1947, India faced the monumental task of creating a constitution for the world's largest democracy. The Constituent Assembly, formed in 1946, would spend nearly 4 years crafting the document that would define modern India. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, a brilliant lawyer and social reformer, was appointed chairman of the drafting committee. Known as the principal architect of the Constitution, Ambedkar brought his deep understanding of law and passionate commitment to social justice to this historic task. The Constituent Assembly included other distinguished leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru as president, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Together, they represented the diverse voices of a newly independent nation. The Constitution begins with the powerful preamble declaring "We, the people of India," and establishing the fundamental principles of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. These principles would guide the creation of a sovereign, democratic republic. The Constitution established key features including a federal structure with a strong central government, parliamentary democracy, fundamental rights and duties for citizens, an independent judiciary, and universal adult suffrage, revolutionary for its time. The drafting process was meticulous and thorough. Beginning in December 1946, the Constituent Assembly held 166 sessions over nearly 3 years, carefully debating every aspect of the new nation's governance structure. The result was remarkable. The world's longest written constitution, with 395 articles organized into 22 parts. This comprehensive document addressed every aspect of governance, from fundamental rights to the structure of government institutions. Article 14 of the Constitution enshrines the fundamental right to equality, stating that the state shall not deny any person equality before the law. This revolutionary principle challenged centuries of social hierarchy and discrimination. Constitutional scholars emphasize that this article laid the foundation for Indian democracy by ensuring equal treatment under law regardless of caste, religion, or social status, a transformative vision for a diverse nation. On January 26, 1950, the Constitution of India came into effect, marking the birth of the Republic of India. This date was chosen to honor the Purna Swaraj Declaration of 1930, connecting the independence struggle to democratic achievement. The Constitution established India as the world's largest democracy and created a framework for social transformation. It became a model for other developing nations, protecting minority rights while providing the foundation for economic development and social progress. The economic reforms of 1991 marked a pivotal transformation in India's history, launching the nation from a closed socialist economy to becoming one of the world's leading technological powerhouses. In 1991, facing a severe balance of payments crisis, India embarked on comprehensive economic liberalization under Finance Minister Manmohan Singh. This dismantled the license Raj system and opened markets to foreign investment. The information technology sector became the crown jewel of India's economic transformation. From virtually nothing in the early 1990s, the IT industry grew to contribute significantly to India's GDP and exports. India's space program, led by the Indian Space Research Organization, achieved remarkable milestones. From launching satellites for other nations to reaching Mars on the first attempt, ISRO demonstrated India's technological prowess. The Make in India initiative, launched in 2014, aimed to transform India into a global manufacturing hub. This program focused on attracting foreign investment and developing domestic manufacturing capabilities across multiple sectors. The results of these reforms have been remarkable. India transformed from a slow growing economy to one of the world's fastest growing major economies, with GDP growth averaging over 6% annually since the reforms began. India's economic reforms created a foundation for sustained growth and technological innovation. From a protected economy to a global technology leader, India's transformation demonstrates the power of strategic economic policy and the entrepreneurial spirit of its people. Modern India has undergone profound social transformations that have reshaped the nation's identity. These changes span across caste dynamics, gender roles, urbanization, and India's emergence as a global diplomatic power. The traditional caste system, which has structured Indian society for millennia, has undergone significant changes in modern India. While historical hierarchies persist, constitutional reforms and social movements have challenged these ancient divisions. Constitutional provisions have established legal equality and affirmative action policies. Reservation systems in education and employment have created new opportunities for historically marginalized communities, though social attitudes continue to evolve gradually. Gender roles in India have transformed dramatically since independence. Women have broken traditional barriers to enter professions, politics, and leadership positions across all sectors of society. From Indira Gandhi becoming prime minister to women leading major corporations and scientific missions, Indian women have achieved remarkable progress. Educational initiatives and legal reforms continue to expand opportunities and challenge traditional gender expectations. India's urbanization represents one of the most significant demographic shifts in human history. The movement from rural to urban areas has accelerated dramatically, reshaping the country's economic and social landscape. This graph shows the dramatic shift from a predominantly rural society to an increasingly urban one. By 2030, urban populations are projected to exceed rural populations, creating both opportunities and challenges for infrastructure, governance, and social services. India's political landscape has evolved from a newly independent nation to the world's largest democracy. Political reforms have strengthened democratic institutions while addressing the challenges of governing a diverse population of over 1.4 billion people. India has emerged as a major player in international relations, balancing strategic partnerships while maintaining its traditional policy of non-alignment. The nation plays crucial roles in global forums and regional stability. India's diplomatic influence extends through multilateral organizations, peacekeeping missions, and economic partnerships. The country has strengthened ties with major powers while championing the interests of developing nations in global forums. India has become a global leader in sustainability initiatives, balancing rapid economic development with environmental protection. The country has made significant commitments to renewable energy and climate action. Through initiatives like the International Solar Alliance and ambitious renewable energy targets, India demonstrates how developing nations can lead in environmental stewardship while pursuing economic growth and social development. These social transformations reflect India's journey from a newly independent nation to a confident global power. The changes in caste dynamics, gender roles, urbanization, and international relations demonstrate India's ability to evolve while maintaining its cultural identity and democratic values. In the 21st century, India has emerged as a major global power, wielding significant influence in international diplomacy, climate action, and sustainable development. From leading the G20 presidency to forging strategic partnerships with world powers, India is reshaping the global order. India's diplomatic leadership reached new heights during its G20 presidency in 2023, where Prime Minister Modi championed the theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future. This presidency showcased India's ability to bring together diverse nations and address global challenges collectively. India has positioned itself as a leader in climate action and sustainable development. The country has committed to ambitious targets, including net zero emissions by 2070 and massive renewable energy expansion. These efforts could save nearly 66 trillion rupees, while creating millions of jobs and preventing premature deaths. India has cultivated strategic partnerships with major world powers, particularly strengthening ties with the United States. The India US strategic relationship has evolved into a comprehensive partnership covering defense, technology, trade, and space cooperation, making it one of the defining partnerships of the 21st century. India's diplomatic influence extends far beyond bilateral relationships. The country has built an extensive network of partnerships across continents, positioning itself as a bridge between developed and developing nations and as a voice for the global South in international forums. However, India also faces significant challenges in its international relations, particularly territorial disputes with China and Pakistan. These border tensions, including disputes over Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh, remain complex geopolitical issues that India must navigate while maintaining its global partnerships. Despite challenges, India has made remarkable progress in sustainable development. The country's performance on the Sustainable Development Goals shows significant improvement, with states like Kerala and union territories like Chandigarh leading the way in achieving development targets. As India continues its remarkable journey, the nation stands poised to shape the future of global governance, sustainable development, and international cooperation. With its rich cultural heritage, democratic values, and growing economic power, India represents hope for a more inclusive and sustainable world order. From the ancient Indus Valley to the modern digital age, India's journey continues to inspire the world. As a beacon of democracy, diversity, and sustainable development, India's global influence will undoubtedly continue to grow, shaping a better future for all humanity.